Good. Well, I want to welcome our online viewers. Thank you for joining us this evening as we continue our TV and media series. We are now on part 5. And tonight, the study is on fame and materialism. So this has been kind of fun for me. I hope it's been enjoyable for you guys. And this is important because what we're learning here is a very practical way to engage with the world. I mean, this is practical walking with Christ 101, I guess you could say. Think about it. When we looked at part 1, we talked about cultural grooming, to be able to discern and understand that things that we're seeing on TV and in culture, in the movies and so forth, that there's a purpose to it for which we may not be aware, to realize that we are in many ways seeing cultural grooming happening in our society, where certain thoughts are being promoted, where certain ideas are being promoted, and many times, a lot of times, it goes against God's will. It goes contrary to God's word, but so it is with this world. Part 2, we looked at love and romance, and what we looked at is that the movies highlight things such as sexual activity and looking at relationships not as becoming one flesh or submitting to one another as we should to Christ, but rather love and romance in a completely different way that God never intended. So because it's been tainted, now many times the culture growing up doesn't have a real understanding of what a healthy biblical relationship should look like. And then in part 3, we looked at anger and violence. And there we show that a lot of times, while Jesus tells us, blessed are the peacemakers, while Jesus tells us to forgive our enemies, the movies and the media teach something completely different. Vengeance and the joy of lashing out and the sensation of the flesh to see violence played out, especially in movies. And then we looked at last week horror and fear. And what we looked at there was this, and what I call it like this innate thirst for blood, this idea of wanting to see those kinds of things, blood, murder, and so forth, and how many times the culture is mesmerized by those kinds of things. And tonight, now we're going to look at fame and materialism. Remember this, fame and materialism is the true God of this world. If we look at Jesus being the King of Kings, right? And when the Bible talks about the God of this world, he's talking about Satan as still very much active in this world. The alternative that Satan offers to the world, as opposed to walking with God through Christ, is wealth and fame, materialism. So think about the temptation of Christ. So he sees that he's hungry, and so first he attacks his physical nature. Hey, you've been fasting for 40 days. Why do you have to do that? You don't have to do that. You have the power to just command these stones to become bread. So what is he appealing to? His hunger, his physical hunger. When Jesus rejects that, then he tempts him by going to the Temple Mount and cast yourself off. And then the angels will pick you up and so forth. Well, what's the temptation there? That's unique to Jesus. He's tempting Jesus to reveal himself to everyone who he is. So yes, and so that is the enemy's attempt to try to make Jesus reveal his true nature before everyone before its due time. And so he's appealing to what the human would consider to be pride. Let everybody see you, which is what I call fame. Let everybody acknowledge you. So for many of us, we want people to like us. We want people to approve of us. And that's this innate nature in us. Well, and then what is the third temptation? Anybody remember the third one? He takes them to the top of the mountain. He says, look at all the kingdoms of the world. Now, obviously they're at the top of the mountain, right? They can see, but obviously you have to see it from a supernatural sense. What do you think Satan was showing him? Do you think he was showing him pretty mountains and the little deer drinking water by the stream and maybe a bird flying in the air? No. What was he trying to show him of the kingdoms? People. What would be the material things? The gold, the jewels, yes, all of the grandeur of the world. So he probably saw those things, or was showing them those things, and was trying to appeal to him to say, hey, I can give you all these things, not realizing that God has a bigger plan. Hey, if I want that now, I'll just take it, because that's all God's anyway. But the point is that the enemy saves his best for last to try to tempt Jesus with the things of this world. That's the thing that he offers us. And we see that especially in Hollywood and media and TV and movies. So the enemy knows how to tempt humanity. And the Bible teaches that money and wealth is the great competitor to God. Go to Matthew chapter 6, verses 19 to 24. Matthew chapter 6, verses 19 to 24. Everybody there? So the great competitor, and I call it the great competitor to Jesus in this world, is money. I would ask you, think about it. What has historically humanity desired most, more out of anything else? Do not store up for yourself treasures on earth where moths and vermin destroy and where thieves break in and steal, but store up for yourself treasures in heaven where moths and vermin do not destroy and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. What do you think? Have you ever seen, for those of you that like watching the forensic files and all of the all of these shows where murder and all those things, and they're showing how this person was killed, and they're kind of breaking it down and giving you clues. Who oftentimes is the person, the culprit that committed the crime? Yes, it's a close family. It's not some random stranger. A lot of times it's the spouse. A lot of times it's a close family member, is it not? Now, if you watch those things, what is oftentimes the motive? Money. Now, there's times where they're having an affair, they wanted to kill them to get away, but it's usually not the case. Most of the time it's they wanted the life insurance money. Money drives people to do the worst possible things. And what Jesus is saying here in verse 21, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. And notice what Jesus specifically points to. Verse 22, the eye is the lamp of the body, and I'm going to talk about these verses. If your eyes are healthy, your whole body will be full of light, but if your eyes are unhealthy, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light within you is darkness, how great is that darkness? And then immediately turns to verse 24. No one can serve two masters. And notice how Jesus, what he puts on both sides. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. And what does he put on one side? You cannot serve both God and money. Now that's interesting. He doesn't say you can't serve both God and lust. You can't serve both God and power. You can't serve both God and whatever you want to put there. There's lots of gods. God and drunkenness, God and drugs, whatever. But money is put there for a purpose. Because Jesus knows that at the heart of every person, this desire for money is a key to what we think is the key to have everything that we want. And so Jesus is saying, you're going to have to make a choice. You don't have time, and you don't have the ability to chase both things. And your heart can't be stretched to go both ways. You can't go both east and west at the same time. You're going to have to choose which way to go. You're either going to serve God or you're going to serve money. And that is at the core of what we're going to look at tonight. Questions, comments?
I'm curious, because I know the translation there, was it money, was it currency, was it material?
Yeah, no, it's money here in the aspect of material gain. Yeah, so here the word here for money is actually, because it's not just wealth but money itself, the actual currency that they would have been. Of course, back then they had the denarius and they had the talents. They didn't have the dollars and so forth that we have. But yeah, very much so here, he's speaking specifically of currency. So, and think about it. I mean, it kind of makes sense because with money, for people who are devoted to those things, they can feel like it gives them access to everything, right? With money you can buy. How many of you have ever heard people say, hey, don't buy me shirts or socks for my birthday, just give me cash? right? How many people say, hey, don't buy me this, don't buy me that, just give me money. And what happens is, for some people that say, hey, don't just buy me something, just buy me, because then I can go and buy whatever I want to buy. So what it is, what they're saying is, that allows me the freedom to buy whatever I want rather than maybe get something I don't want. Well, money for a lot of people is a door to a lot of those things. But I want you to notice verses 22 to 23. Notice that from verses 19 to 21, he's talking about not storing up treasures on earth. Don't worry about accumulating stuff here, because you can't take it with you anyway. And even if you could, it's going to dissolve. You can't take it with you. Store up your treasures in heaven. Do the things, focus on the things that are permanent, the eternal things. Those treasures last forever. And then at the end, in verses 24, he's talking again, you can't serve both. You can't serve both God and money. But sandwiched right in the middle there, the little piece of ham between those two pieces of bread, Jesus says this interesting thing. The eye is the lamp of the body. And we talked about this before. If your eyes are healthy, your whole body will be full of light. Otherwise, if your eyes are unhealthy, your whole body will be full of darkness. Why is that so important? Why does Jesus sandwich that statement about the eyes as the lamp of the body in his conversation and his warning about the pursuit of money and wealth? What do you think? Thank you, Marco.
That's why we have all these commercials and everything. So you first see things and then you desire. In other words, it's almost impossible that you desire something that you don't know exists. So
yeah, so for example, right now, no, keep it on so that way so let me ask you a question, for example. On a scale of 1 to 10, how interested right now are you in buying a new vehicle? Could you talk into the microphone, please? Okay, 1 to 10, like a 2, right? 2. So when you see a commercial about a new car, you're not interested, you don't pay attention at all. Mm. But what commercial could maybe, right, catch your attention? Maybe you're wanting to go to a certain vacation to a certain spot and you see a promotion for it. Or maybe you're planning on going shopping and then you see a commercial from Walmart or Target or JCPenney and it catches your attention. How many of you have ever been on a diet and then all of a sudden the food commercials, you never paid attention to them before, but then all of a sudden it's like, man, that is I put it on pause on the pizza. Like, look at that pizza, man. Look at that cheese. Because at that moment, your heart desires that. It's wanting those things. So what the commercials that my wife was talking about is they're engaging you to try to appeal to you to pursue those things. And I got a scary thing to say to you. And if you didn't know this, I don't mean to freak you out, but did you know that we live in a world today where your phone listens to you and where your computer watches what you look for? And what happens is it's called targeted, what's it called? Targeted algorithms. You know what that means? It watches what you look for, it watches what you watch, it watches what you say, and then it sends you promotions to try to get you to buy those things. And did you know that? Mm-hmm. Okay, I just want to make sure y'all knew that.
You know, and it's very interesting because if you go back to the fall in Genesis, you see when, in Genesis 3:6, when it says when the woman saw the fruit.
Yes.
Okay? And it saw that it was good food and it was pleasant to the eye and also desired. So we have there, the fall. She saw something, desire, and then what? She took it.
So now, this is a very important point because I was going to be talking about that. So, was the tree there before Jesus warned them not to eat of it? Yes. Did they walk by it? Did they see it before they took of it? Absolutely. So, it was there. They were seeing it every day. But they were walking by it because God had said, don't take of that. They could take from the tree of life, but not from the tree of the knowledge between good and evil. So they were taking, they were doing their thing. They were walking by it. They could see it every day. So why does it now say that she saw the fruit?
Satan kind of like try the attention. Hey, look, have you seen that?
Yes, the implication behind the Hebrew word there, when she saw, it means that when she focused on it, when she meditated on it, when she really looked at it for the first time, but she saw it with now what the serpent had done. He really pointed her eyes to it. And all of a sudden, what had been something that she had looked past before, all of a sudden became an object of focus. So really what it's saying there is that when the fruit became an object of focus for Eve, that's when everything started falling apart. That's the point I'm trying to make here. When Jesus says the eye is the lamp of the body, what he's saying is when you're walking, how many of you, let's say it's pitch black dark and you have your lamp here and you're going like this? You're not going to do that. You're not going to walk in a direction opposite of where the lamp is going. You're going to point the lamp in the way that you want to go. The eye is the lamp. And what he's saying is whatever you focus on, whatever you look at, that's what you're going to pursue. And you have to be very careful because that thing could lead you to darkness. Other questions, comments? I think there was somebody else. Oh, okay. Yeah. Yes, you see what you want.
Yeah. I would say the only thing I would add is funny enough from the sign of the lamp. You covet what you see every day. Like you see wealth if you see what you want.
Very well said. You covet what you see every day. So Jesus is warning us what to focus on. And guys, money and wealth, is that not being promoted on TV and media? We'll take a look at that. That is something to be very, very careful with.
The one thing that comes to mind is that slogan that we hear in movies, everyone has a price. And it's clear that the Bible states you shouldn't have a price. You should choose God over, some people are willing to do anything, like you said, for money.
Yeah, because when we forsake Jesus or our faith for the things of this world, what we're really doing is we're devaluing our soul. Like Jesus is saying, you don't realize how important your soul is. Your soul is so important that I was willing to come down and die for it. And then you toss it aside for your own personal little things, and you don't realize that heaven and hell are fighting for your soul. And if you value it so little, then you don't understand what value you have. I've heard stories of people, like for example, who have had like a coin in their home, and their grandpa gave it to them, or their great grandpa was passed down, and they didn't realize it was some $100,000 coin or some. And I've seen I don't know if you've ever seen the show Pawn Stars. You have people come in, I got this this sword, or I got this guitar, right? And whatever, like I don't know what it is, And then they get somebody come in and value it and say, oh, that's Jimi Hendrix's, his original guitar that he played, whatever. It's worth $1 million. What? So a lot of times, what's being shown there is people are sitting on something so valuable and they don't even realize it because they don't understand what they have. And I think what Jesus is saying to us here is there's nothing in your life more precious than your soul. So when he's saying, who would, for those who would forsake their soul for the world, like it's a bad deal. Like, but I can have the world, but that's no comparison to your soul. It's invaluable.
I once heard a very powerful statement. I think it was from you or from.
Did you like the statement?
I did.
Yeah, I said it. I said it.
It was behind that pulpit. The phrase was, "Poor people will give their life for wealth, but wealthy people give their wealth for life."
For life. That's right.
And
in other words, the wealthy would give anything to have life.
Yeah, so notice how it's just those two things, just like you see in Scripture.
Mm-hmm. Amen to that. So let's look at what the Bible says about money, because this is the formula. We're going to look at the original before we look at the counterfeit, right? So we're going to all agree on what the Bible teaches about money, and then we'll move on. But let me ask you a quick question. Is money evil? No. But doesn't the Bible say that money is the root of all evil? The love of money is the root of all evil, not money. So you have to be, I want you to understand, I'm not saying that if you work hard and you save your money and you're a good steward, no, that's what you should do. If you work hard and you get money and then you're wasteful with it and you're not responsible for it, then you have to ask for forgiveness from God, because God is blessing you with those things. And if you throw it away or you're not careful with it because you don't value it, now God never told you not to value the things he gives you. So so I want to make sure that I'm clear about that. I'm not here promoting that money in and of itself is bad. That's not what I'm saying. And I think it'll make sense as we go to the next slide here. Go to 1 Timothy chapter 6, verses 6 through 10. 1 Timothy chapter 6, verses 6 through 10. There is a word that I want you to really hear in this passage, and it's found in verse 6, and it's the word contentment. So before we read this, I need everybody to know what that word means. What do you think that word means? Contentment. Satisfied, okay? In Spanish, you'll hear contento, right? And in Spanish, contento oftentimes is translated as happy, but happy is feliz, right? Contento means content or satisfied. It's a different idea. But the reason I like that word in Spanish, contento, means it is a joy. I'm estoy contento. But it's a joy in being satisfied. I'm filled. And that's what this is talking about. Notice, but godliness with contentment is great gain. It's not godliness with money. It's godliness with contentment. In other words, I'm satisfied. I may not have everything I want, but I have everything I need. And as long as I have God, I'm okay. It's that attitude. Verse 7, for we brought nothing into the world, and we can take nothing out of it. How important is that passage? How many people die with millions in the bank, having wasted their whole life trying to accumulate that money, only for them to die and somebody else to spend it? Right? Or even worse, for them to die and then their family is fractured and divided because they're fighting over that money. Have you not seen that? Isn't that so sad? Because a lot of times the very thing that the person was trying to do is the opposite. Oh, I want to leave something for my family. I want to provide for them. And all they do is they accumulate this wealth, and then the family's just fighting over it, and then they don't speak to each other for the rest of their lives because they wanted that money. And it was the exact opposite of what the person wanted. So you can't take it with you. That ought to say something. If I can't take it with me, why should I care about it more than God? Notice verse 8. But if we have food and clothing, here's the word again, we will be content with that. Verse 9, those who want to get rich fall into this temptation and a trap, and into many foolish and harmful desires that plunge people into ruin and destruction. Let me stop there. Remember this story. This person was giving his testimony. He was on a podcast. Wealthy businessman. And I may have shared it with some of you. He was talking about the day that he devoted his life to Christ. And he said that at the time he had this business going, and he was trying to make a lot of money, but he was getting sued, and then he was split up with his wife and possibly going to go through a divorce. And there was all these issues going on. He was stressed out, and a lot of the reason his his marriage was fractured was because he was working all the time and trying to get money. Well, they were building a house. He said it was like a 12,000 square foot home because it was majestic. It was beautiful. He says, man, and I remember showing up to see how it was going. They were building it and working on it. So I went there, and I was angry, and I was talking to the builders, and I was trying to make sure everything was right. I was yelling with my wife. I was miserable at work. I hated my life. And I walk in there, and I'm looking, everything goes, and I hear music in the back. How many of you heard this story that I've shared it with you, right? He goes, and this is a true story, true testimony. He goes, man, he goes, and I feel awful. I'm on the verge of divorce. My life is miserable. He goes, and at that moment, I felt like a voice tell me, listen. And I heard music in the back. And I walked over there out of curiosity. He goes, man, it was these workers that were putting in the tile on the floor. He goes, and it was that Mexican music. And he goes, man, and because they had smiles on their faces, and they were working. One of the guys was dancing to one of one of the songs, and he goes, and I saw them, and I thought, they are genuinely happy and content. He goes, and at that moment, the voice of God spoke to me and says, here you are with this 12,000 square foot house. For you, it's never enough. You want more and more and more. Your marriage is on the verge of divorce. Your kids hate you. You've been absent. You're just pursuing money, and for what? All of this. And here's this 12,000 square foot building, and these guys that are installing your tile, they figured it out. He goes, and at that moment, I got on my knees, and I asked for forgiveness, and I gave my life to Christ. He goes, and from that point on, everything was different. He goes, you know, my business, he said, my business actually flourished. I did well, but we went back to church. I started tithing. My wife and I devoted ourselves to each other because my marriage was saved. He goes, and my life took a whole new different perspective. And it wasn't about the pursuit of wealth and money anymore. It was about pursuing the things that God wanted for my life. It was a beautiful testimony. And I think that's what it's saying here in verse 9, that those who want to get rich fall into this temptation. Listen, there's nothing wrong with wanting to have a better house. Those of you out there working, you say, hey, I'm trying to work hard to get my wife a new car. There's nothing wrong with those things. Don't hear me wrong. What I'm saying is that when you sacrifice what matters most to get these things that you desire, then what happens is that becomes now your idol. Because an idol is anything that you love more than God. And if more money, a bigger house, takes a priority over you coming to church, spending time with your family, praying and seeking the things of God, then you're on the wrong track. And you have to be very careful. That's a temptation and a trap is what it says. And then verse 10, for the love of money, there it was, you guys got it. For the love of money is a root, now I want you to notice, of all kinds of evil. It does not say for the love of money is the root of evil, but of all kinds of evil. So, and I'm going to ask you about that here in a little bit. Some people, eager for money, have wandered from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs. So what are some evils that the love of money could lead you into? Greed, dishonesty, right? You could cheat and try to swindle others to try to take shortcuts. Wrath, anger, all of these things can come from this desire. So you have to be very careful because this will lead you down to darkness that will destroy your whole life. And that's what it's being warned here in 1 Timothy. Money is the root of all kinds of evil, and I stressed that in the slide. So now let's go to Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verses 10 to 17. Any questions on that? Brother, any comments online? Everybody good? All right. Let's go to Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verses 10 to 17. What was the key word in 1 Timothy that I wanted you to focus on? Contentment. Notice what it says in Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verse 10. Whoever loves money never has enough. Is that not true? Whoever loves wealth is never satisfied with their income, and this too is meaningless. Now, before I continue, who wrote that? King Solomon. Who was King Solomon? The richest man to ever live at that time. Yeah, and the wisest. And so if this guy who had all of the wealth the world could ever desire is telling you it's meaningless, you might want to listen. Because it's one thing for a poor guy to say wealth is meaningless. It's another thing for the wealthiest man to have everything to say that.
Sorry, I just thought about this a little ago. It made me think, did they, because if I'm not mistaken, didn't like the Egyptian pharaohs believe like whatever they die, they take with them, so they accumulated the wealth? Is that something that these people, the people that wrote the Bible, would have known that?
Very good, very good. That's a very good sociocultural observation. There's a reason why King Tut's tomb was filled with tons of gold and all kinds of artifacts and stuff, because they believed that when they did die, they would take these riches with them into the next world. There's this huge boat there. That boat was used to take them into the next world. So there was this idea. That's why when you saw these tombs filled with all these things, and it wasn't just the Egyptians. When you look at the Mayan tombs, when you look at the Aztec tombs, when you look at tombs and throughout the world, you'll see these people buried with all these items because there was this belief that they could take it with them. And again, what the Bible is teaching, and you got it just right. It was really correcting. We know that we can't take it, but at that time there was this belief, and so it was actually teaching against the popular belief at that time that you could take it with you. So that's a very good observation, yeah.
A lot of Native Americans, I mean Mexicans and like the Aztecs and people like that, they thought that they're gonna come back. So they have to hide the money. They have to kind of like wait because they are coming back. And you see there's a lot of my Tio Cuco, it was one of those that always wanted to hunt for gold because he knew my grandparents, they found gold, So it was very common for people to hide whatever, and in those days it was gold, and because they thought that, when I died, I'm gonna come back, and then what I'm gonna do, so I have my money.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. And there was a lot of belief in that time that that the dead could come back, like if they had buried money, gold, or whatever, that the dead would come back looking for it. And so what you would have a lot of times where people were doing seances to try to find communication with the dead to determine where they had buried their money. So, yeah, so this kind of pointed to all of those things, this desire to hang on to things. Now, let's keep going because it gets even better. By the way, let me just say one other thing. Again, verse 10, whoever loves money has never has enough. Whoever loves wealth is never satisfied. Think about what that's saying. If that's what you love, you'll never have enough. Y'all know who John D. Rockefeller is? I believe he was the first billionaire. I may be wrong, but I believe he was the first billionaire in the United States. I mean, wealthy. He was obviously one of the most wealthiest Americans to ever live. He believe he got it through oil. I may be wrong. Was it oil? Yeah. So he was an oil tycoon. First billionaire. Okay, good. I got it right. First billionaire in the United States, oil tycoon. You would think the guy had more than he ever needed and would have been happy. True story. Someone once asked John D. Rockefeller, the richest man of his time, how much money is enough? And he replied with the perfect answer that describes what Solomon is saying here. He says, just a little bit more. Think about that. How much is enough for you? How much money is enough for you? He says, just a little bit more. You'll never have enough. So notice verse 11. As goods increase, so do those who consume them. And what benefit are they to the owners except to feast their eyes on them? In other words, the only thing it brings is the lust of the eyes. I want to see how big my bank account is. I want to look at the things that I have. But as goods increase, so do those who consume them. Verse 12, the sleep of a laborer is sweet, whether they eat little or much, right? So in other words, if you're a hard worker, if you're a simple person and you just do your honest day's work and you work, don't you sleep well, whether you eat a lot or little? But as for the rich, their abundance permits them no sleep. In other words, if that's what you love, God will permit you no peace. You won't be able to just rest. And there's that famous saying, you can buy a bed, but not sleep. You can buy a house, but not a home. We can buy things, but they're not going to satisfy what the heart really wants. You want the nicest bed, or do you want to be able to sleep? See the difference? Verse 13, I have seen a grievous evil under the sun, wealth hoarded to the harm of its owners. He's saying, I've seen this. I've seen people, man, they're just trying to hoard up. They're trying to save up all their money to their harm. Verse 14, or wealth lost through some misfortune, so that when they have children, there is nothing left for them to inherit. Because I've seen money come and go. I've seen money do terrible things to people. I've seen people so obsessed with money that it destroyed their life, and I've seen money just gone, and then that's it. They don't have anything else. I remember reading this story in, I've got a classic truck, so I get this classic magazine, and I had seen this story in there about a man who had uh, dedicated like 30 years to restoring this one vehicle, and he got it perfectly and everything. But one day he was driving, and wrong turn, somebody didn't see him, and boom, it was completely totaled. Now he got his insurance money for it, but in the interview he said that he was devastated, that it was gone. He says, my whole life's work was gone because I was devastated. And I thought, how sad that for him, his whole life's work, his whole identity, and that's all the story was. It was the article was about how he lost everything in that, his identity, everything they had worked for. I'm like, well, maybe you should have invested in something a little bit more permanent than a stupid vehicle. I mean, I love my truck, but it's just a stupid truck. It's not going to replace my love for my family, my love for God, and the things that matter most. And then notice verse 15. Everyone comes naked from their mother's womb. And as everyone comes, so they depart. Why is that important? Everyone is born naked from their mother's womb. And as everyone comes, so they also depart. You're born naked and you leave naked. What does that mean? What about all your money and your wealth? It don't matter. Yeah, that's nothing. They take nothing from their toil that they can carry in their hands. Verse 16, this too is a grievous evil. As everyone comes, so they depart. And what do they gain since they toil for the wind? You're working for the wrong reason. Verse 17, all their days they eat in darkness with great frustration, affliction, and anger. We were talking about a family member, Marco and I, that was so devoted to saving money. He was obsessed with money. It's a sad tragedy that he would even skip lunch. He would even skip meals. He would go hungry because he didn't want to spend money. But at the end of the day, he lost all his money to a witch who stole it from him because the witch promised that she could bless it and multiply his wealth. So he brought all the money there so she could bless it. And she said, but you have to go to the other room. You can't see what I'm doing. And you need to stand out there. I'll call you. So they went out to the other room to wait. And after a while, they went to look, and she was gone. True story. And what Solomon is saying is it's stupid and useless. It's vanity. Again, I'm not saying that money is, you got to pay your bills. I get it. You got to pay your doctor bills. You got to pay for food. I get that. But the pursuit of it above all other things, that's unwise. Questions, comments? Ponzi schemes, all those things that people are pursuing. And a lot of times that's a problem. Did you know, true fact, did you know that the majority, like 99% of the people that contribute to the billions of dollars of the lottery are in the lower 5% of the poorest people in the nation? Let me repeat that again. 99% of the people who are buying the tickets for the lottery are in the lowest 5%, the poorest people in the nation. They're hoping they'll get that scratch off. But the people with money and wisdom know I have a greater chance of getting struck by lightning 7 times than to win that stupid lottery. And I would be better off taking that money and buying something that is certain. So it's important to understand the wisdom of Solomon here. All right, let's go to Luke chapter 12 now.
Well, I don't think people realize how much money they're spending on lottery when all that could be accumulated to simple money management.
Yeah, I kid you not. I saw one time a person, he was a construction worker, and you could tell it was like Friday. I guess he had just gotten paid. And man, he shows up, he's got his boots are dirty. You could tell he had worked hard the whole week. And he comes up, boy, he pops his beer, up there on the counter. He goes, yeah, give me $20 worth of tickets, whatever. And he goes up there and he gets it, and he's scratching off and whatever. And, I'm in line, right? He goes, hey, give me another 50. Hey, give me another. And while we were in line there, I think he spent like $100 worth of those tickets. And I'm like, man, you worked all week, man. You could tell. He was a hard worker. You could tell he was just dirty and everything. I'm like, and you just threw away $100 right there. But it's the foolish thought of the person who's trying to get rich quick. There's no secret. You just be a good steward, be patient, and trust in the Lord. So, yeah.
So, I guess my question is, how, okay, gambling, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the casinos and stuff. I love to go to the casinos. Am I excited to go win some money? I don't have any money. Like, I go play and enjoy it. Like, is that still a sin if you're like just going to have fun to play, but not to like you're not there to like you know what I'm saying? Like it's like
Yeah.
if I was going to the game room over here just to play like the game and
Yeah.
enjoy myself rather than like, oh it's I'm expecting to win big. I'm gonna keep on going, keep on going.
Yeah.
I just take like $100, that's it, play it, I'm done.
Yeah, I think that there is this line where all of us, we all each have to go to the Lord and search our conscience, which is right or wrong. Gambling is something that the Bible does speak out against, but in like what you're saying, that doesn't sound like really somebody who's gambling. But if you're spending money, you have to think about, okay, this money belongs to the Lord. So I have to be accountable to the Lord for how I'm spending it. So you just want to be careful, because I get it. Like, let's say if I want to take my kids out to the arcade game and I want to spend $20 playing video games and that, knowing that it's just for fun, or if you want to go and play, with the little slot machine thing or whatever, I would say that, again, be careful with that, and always bring everything before the Lord. If you want to spend just a few bucks doing that because you enjoy it or whatever, that's one thing, but I would just be very careful, because it can be a slippery slope and it can lead to addiction. Gambling is something that the Bible warns us against. But there are those situations where somebody might want to play a game or something. I would just caution you to be careful with it. Don't get carried away with it. And you've heard those stories, people going to Las Vegas and losing everything. And so you just have to just pray about it, and I think the Lord will give you conviction in what you do. Again, whatever you have is money, and say, Lord, I want to, like we're going to go on vacation. I want to make sure that what we're spending and what we're doing, I want to make sure it's still accountable, because I don't want to say, well, Lord, this is my vacation money. I can do, I want to be accountable. But yeah, just pray on that. But I appreciate that question. Luke chapter 12, verses 13 to 21. Everybody knows this story. And I think this says it really well before we go into the movie section. It's, someone in the crowd said to Jesus, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." Well, first of all, that's a really stupid thing to say. I mean, Jesus is teaching the wisdom of God, the kingdom of God. He's like, hey, tell my brother to give me And notice what Jesus replies, "Man, who appointed me a judge or an arbiter between you?" And then he said to them, "Watch out. Be on your guard against all kinds of greed." So this guy, thinking that he was going to put his brother on the spot, he got rebuked by Jesus. He says, be on your guard against all kinds of greed. Life does not consist in an abundance of possessions. Because the point of this life is not to gather your possessions. The point of life is not to get rich and accumulate wealth and possessions. Notice verse 16, and he told them this parable. The ground of a certain rich man yielded an abundant harvest. And he thought to himself, what shall I do? I have no place to store my crops. Man, I got so much stuff. What shall I do? Oh, what a great problem to have. Then he said, this is what I'll do. I will tear down my barns and build bigger ones. And there I will store my surplus grain. This isn't there I will store my grain. It's there I will store my surplus grain. I got so much, I don't know what to do with it. So I'll build bigger barns so I can store all of that. I'll just save more and more and more. And then I'll say to myself, you have plenty of grain laid up for many years. And this is what this guy's idea of life is. Take life easy, eat, drink, and be merry. And that's what a lot of people think is the purpose of life. Eat, drink, and be merry, man. It's just about just taking it easy and just enjoying life, and eat, drink, and be merry. It's all about just having fun, enjoying yourself. And that's not what the Bible teaches us. But notice what God says to him in verse 20. You fool. All right. If that's the way the statement starts, you're already bad. Okay? I already know this is not going to end well. God says, you fool. This very night your life will be demanded from you. Then who will get what you have prepared for yourself? This is how it will be with whoever stores up things for themselves, but is not rich toward God. I mean, it can't get any clearer than that, right? I mean, again, it's good to work hard. It's good to save your money. It's good to get things for your family and do all those things. But remember, if you don't find your contentment in the Lord, you'll never have enough. If you have a broken down, old beat up car, and then you find a way to where you're able to buy a nicer car, what you should be saying is, thank you, Lord. I was content with what I had, but now you bless me with this. I'm going to look upwards and give you thanks for what I have. Right? Or let's say you want to buy a new house and you go and you look and you apply for a house and the house isn't given to you for a reason. It falls through. Okay, thank you, Lord. You gave me an answer. I prayed and this wasn't your will. You have to learn to trust in the Lord in those ways. All right, so one of my favorite Christmas stories is, if you'll go back to that slide, brother. Anybody know what that picture is in that slide? It's okay, it's going to load. Take a look at the slide that I have there for the Bible passages, and I want you to see if you can identify who that person is. Oh, are those out? Oh, that's okay. Oh, that's okay. Anybody know who that is? That's Ebenezer Scrooge. It is I know everybody loves It's a Wonderful Life, and everybody loves A Christmas Story. My favorite Christmas story is A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. I love this story. Charles Dickens is a Christian. Yeah, and Charles Dickens wrote this with a Christian theme, a Christian point. Ebenezer Scrooge is this man who loved money. Loved it so much that he hated humanity. He was just a penny pincher to the extreme. And most of you know the story. He encounters 3 Christmas spirits, the past, the present, and the future. And in that encounter with those spirits, his heart changes and he realizes that he's been wrong his whole life. And of course, it ends in a great note, right? Because in the few years that he has left, he's able to change his life and not end up like his partner who visits him at the beginning of his dream, Jacob Marley. Jacob Marley, who warns him, don't be like me. Well, at the end of the movie or the story, Ebenezer Scrooge repents and he changes his life and he becomes a giving, gracious person. The reason I like this story is because it teaches us something really important. It's never too late to change your lifestyle. It's never too late to change those things. And if the Lord convicts you in a way that says the way you've been managing your money has not been right, you can change that. And it reminds me that when Marty and I first moved to San Antonio, we had lost everything. I had lost my job, my career. She had lost her job. For the first couple of 3 years there, 2 to 3 years, we were struggling because we were making 1/3 of what we had been used to making back before I lost my job. But we devoted our lives to Christ. We surrendered our marriage and we gave it to the Lord, and we began to trust Him. And then we did something that we had not been doing for years before. We started tithing. Now you would think in the time that I had all that money that I wasn't tithing. You would have thought I had extra money, but I didn't. We were living month to month. But as soon as we started tithing with the little bit that we had, and we started trusting in the Lord, the little that we did have, God made it work. It was a great blessing. So it really is, it's a great reminder, and I love this story because if somebody like in this story, Ebenezer Scrooge, a man who had spent his whole life pursuing money, could change at the end, it means that any of us can. So I really like that movie. All right, let's go to now what the world says. So now you know what God warns us about, right? He says money is the root of all kinds of evil. You can't serve God in money. You can't, what was the other ones? Whoever loves money never has enough, right? And then you're a fool if you pursue it. Well, what does the world say? The world says, no, money is the ultimate goal of life. The ultimate goal of life is to get money and at any cost, whatever it takes. Take, for example, The Wolf of Wall Street. Anybody seen that movie? I haven't seen it, but I did do a synopsis of it. It's a 2013 movie by Martin Scorsese, and it's based on a true biography. It stars Leonardo DiCaprio and Jonah Hill and Margot Robbie, and it's based on the story of a man named Jordan Belfort, a real guy. This is based on his biography. So Belfort was a stockbroker in New York City who made millions, and I mean multiple millions of dollars through corruption and fraud. And in the movie, he's kind of narrating, and he's saying, hey, you get it in whatever means. Whatever it takes, it's all about the dollar. It's all about getting that money. And he made hundreds of millions. He created a branch, a company, and man, he embezzled and just did all these things, and he lived it up. And originally, this movie was given an NC-17 rating, which is worse than rated R. And then Scorsese changed the movie just enough to make where it fell under the rated R rating, and that ought to tell you what kind of a movie it is. It is loaded with sexual content, extreme drug use, and extreme profanity. In fact, it set a Guinness Book of World Records for the most instances of profanity. That's the world that it created in there, and that's what it was showing. But whenever they did the movie, based on Belfort's testimony, that's what it was like. It was nothing riddled but it was drugs everywhere, alcohol everywhere, prostitutes everywhere. That's what the life was about. So all the money was coming in, but all of this darkness was coming with it. And so it was there that he became addicted to drugs and alcohol and sexual perversion, all of these things. And here's something that's ironic about the movie. Ironically, the producer of this movie, the actual producer of the movie, he got arrested for illegally financing and corruption to fund the movie. So even the guy who financed the movie, he did so through corruption. He was arrested for that corruption. And here's the main point that I wanted to make about The Wolf of Wall Street. The movie promotes one big idea, and it's this: the acquisition of wealth at any cost. The end justifies the mean. Lie, cheat, steal, do whatever it takes to get the money. That's what matters most. And that's actually what the narrator, which of course in this movie is Leonardo DiCaprio, representing Belfort, that's what he's saying. He goes, it's all about the money. Whatever it takes, get the money. And so it's all about the lifestyle. And throughout the movie, they have private jets, they have mansions, yachts, drugs, prostitutes, like I said, luxury cars, sex, money is everywhere. They're throwing money around, and in the according to what the synopsis says, even like in the office, they would have games, and they would say, okay, $20,000, whoever can do this, and they would just gamble there, and they would throw money out, and so it was just this world of just immersed in greed. And so in that movie, I did write down this one statement that I think captures what I'm trying to say. In there, Leonardo DiCaprio says this. This is a quote from the movie. With money, you can conquer the world, and you can eviscerate your enemies. Money doesn't just buy you a better life, it also makes you a better person. That's what the world says about money, as opposed to what we just read that God says about money. So obviously, it's night and day, and literally night and day, like light and darkness. And yet, how many young people, they're pursuing the main thing they want is they want money. And if that's all you want, you'll never have enough. You'll never, you're going to get your money. Just keep working hard, whatever. Don't worry about that, but learn to be content. And there was a time in my life when I was making good money, but I never had money because I was always wanting to spend it. Like, oh, I want this, I want that, I want the latest this, I want the latest that. And then as I began to walking with the Lord after I committed my life in 2009, one of my consistent prayers was, Lord, let me want a little less, a little bit of more of you today and a little bit less of me. More of you today, oh God, less of me. And that's not just Irby Valdez's prayer. That was John the Baptist. More of him. He must, in his words, is when they says, hey, John, look, the disciples of Jesus are baptizing. Hey, they're taking away our customers. Hey, he's getting more popular than you. Let's do something. He says, no, this is fitting. For he must be greater and I must be lesser. And I thought, oh, what a great prayer to pray. And so what I learned in that transition in my life was, it wasn't that I didn't have enough money, is that I was wanting too many stupid, unnecessary things in my life. I needed to want less. And eventually I realized that I had more than I needed in my life. And that's what contentment means. So, questions, comments? Brother?
I don't know if it's on the list, but it popped up in my head when you started talking. I saw what the theme today was, the Goodfellas, and the scene where he goes on like I think the first date, and he just him bribing people, and that's for him to like get to the spot where he needed that club or restaurant.
Yes. I almost put that, and yes, please, by the way, if you come up with other movies, share them with us. But Goodfellas was almost going to be on my list here. But Goodfellas is another one, that gangster lifestyle, right? The mafia, and man, and in all those movies, they're pulling out their big wads of cash, those Sicilians, like, hey, and they're pulling out these big wads of cash, and, it's that lifestyle, right? But comes with it drugs and murder, and that corruption. And at the end of the movie, he's a drug addict. He's running for his life, and at the end, he I think at the end, if I'm correct, he does a bargain, I think, with the FBI, and he ends up going into hiding because he rats him out. But now he has to hide for the rest of his life because obviously they're going to be looking to kill him. That's right. Yeah, I read this short story, and I wish I could remember the name of it. I just thought of it just now. So there's this a short story where a man was found. It was kind of like a jinn, like a genie. He found but in the story I remember, it was a wicked genie, and he reads this one. He finds it. I don't know how he discovers it in the story that I was reading. But supposedly he had read in there, do not open, for although it will seek the desires of your heart, he will trap you forever. Well, anyway, he makes a wish and he makes a bargain that he will give his soul to this genie, and but he will have whatever he wants. He says, and so what he prays for, he says, I always pray that this room be filled with gold and money. And so the genie says, okay, and he slaps his fingers. And the room is filled with just mounds of money and gold. And he's like, wow, look at this. And so he gets so excited, and he takes a big wad of cash because he's going to go and celebrate. And he runs, and when he opens the door and he walks out, the cash turns to sand. And what he realizes is that he asked for a room full of money and jewels and gold, and that's what he got. He never said that, the genie never said that he could take it with him. And so in the story, I remember reading that. The point was what he was asking for would never benefit him. So it's kind of like what you said. God will never bless that lifestyle. Drug lords who have all this money, but God won't bless it. It won't mean anything. And so it's those lifestyles that we say, yeah, they may have been in that world, but it will never benefit them or bless them. So, yeah.
Now that we're talking about like the cartels and all that, earlier you mentioned identity, and I think that when we think about people saying like, I want to leave a legacy, and let's say their last name is Hernandez or something, and the Hernandez family, like, let's say that they were very wealthy and they were maybe in the mafia, whatever. You think about like Sinaloa and all these places in Mexico, they have these big graveyards and these huge, like, mini mansions to where they bury, the drug lords and whatnot. God says that our identity is supposed to be in Him, but here people are trying to still, push their view of where their identity is supposed to be. We should want to be remembered in honor of Jesus, like leaving a legacy and being proud of, look at my children following God, versus look at what I left, look at this legacy and and look at everything I've accomplished, and with money and corruption and But I think people just, they get it wrong. They get so caught up in because we're talking about fame earlier, right? And materialism and look at everything I've done. But it's really about what were we doing here on earth for the Lord.
Yeah. No, that's true. That's true. So, go ahead, Marco. Before I go to the Kardashians, I want to make sure I get all of your thoughts. But thank you, Veronica. That's a good point. Legacy is not in trying to build, because that's why I have these people try to build buildings and try to make their names for themselves. And all at the end of the day, our desire should be to honor the Lord.
Yeah, you don't even have to go in the world. I mean, there's preachers out there
Oh,
preaching the
yes.
prosperity gospel. There was this
Worth
one.
millions.
There was this one pastor. He was called the Blink Bishop.
The
He-
Bling
Yeah, that's how to
Bishop.
show you how kind of a.
Can y'all give me a nickname?
He ended up he ended up going to prison for wire fraud, attempted wire fraud, extortion. I mean, he was all about. In fact, there was one video of him being robbed during one of his sermons.
Oh, I
So
saw
that
that
was so-
video. He's
yeah,
preaching, and then the people come in and they rob him.
Yeah, he had like $1 million worth of jewelry on him.
Wow.
True story. It's you don't even have to.
Yeah, and there you know already it's a fake gospel. Yeah, because I'm sorry, but if a preacher is going around with $1 million worth of jewelry, no, that is not. I mean, I understand that preachers, they need to live too, right? They got to feed their family. But the bling preacher or bishop, whatever, with all this stuff, that's not. And Paul warns against that, because there were these Judaizers. They were charging people. They were taking money, and that's not what the gospel is for. But the reality is that there's a lot of. So I'm glad you brought that up. There's a lot of. That's very dangerous, because now what it promotes to the world that even the Bible and the world of religion is not exempt, but that's a fake gospel, and I think we were talking about, there's even a website where like preachers, it shows what their shoes are. It's like how much value, and they're like, oh, those are $2,000 shoes, and like, I mean, why would they show up for me? It's like, hey, those are $12 shoes. It's like, hey, but they're comfortable. They're Skechers, I don't care. But the point is that, when you go to churches that it's all about the bling, it's the big building and the big show and everything like that, then what really matters is missing. So I'm glad you brought that up, sir. Yes.
This is a random question, because you talked about the pastors being.
Yeah, these people, these prosperity.
Well,
Yeah.
no, not blinging it up, but like, I don't know how many churches I've gone to where there's like security guards with a pastor. Like, I don't understand that. Like, we're at a church, and why would they need to have security guards?
Yeah. Yeah, well, yeah, because you can have, like, for example, you do want to have, the question was, for those of you online, is, what about those churches where you see like the security guards for the pastor? If the pastor has them for himself, he's kind of like his own little guard, yeah, something's wrong. But now I understand that sometimes they're targets, and they have to protect themselves. I get that. In our church, we want to protect. I don't know if you noticed last week, somebody drove into a church and pulled out a machine gun and started shooting, and thank God there was a security guard and shot him. Otherwise, there would have been multiple of children and women killed and people. So the reality is yeah, it was a deacon that ran him over, I think, with his Ford F-150. Val drives a Ford F-150, by the way. I was like, yes. So I feel safer. But the reality is there's a difference between. Yeah, the deacon ran him over. No. So the point I'm trying to make is, if you think that the churches are exempt from violence, you're wrong. If you think that there aren't people who come and shoot and kill people in the church, you're wrong. There are people that will come. So there do need to be safety protocols. We have safety protocols. However, sometimes when you go to church and you see they have an entourage with them, these pastors, they have their own personal security guards and so forth, it can become a problem because all of a sudden the church ceases to be what it should be. Jesus was accessible. And so, yeah. The other one that I want to point out was the Kardashians. Now, we could have a bunch. There was like a big stack of them, like the Goodfellas and all these others. But I wanted to make a point here. When you look at these shows that where money is the ultimate goal, I think of the Kardashians. I think it's in 6 seasons. I don't know. But there's people who are addicted to those. There's more? Okay. So how many seasons, Kayla? Like 38? No, of course you don't watch. No, I know you don't. But it's in many seasons. Okay, sorry, I don't know. Mark, how many seasons, sir? I know you secretly watch. 18? Okay. But it's a reality show on the Kardashian-Jenner family. And what I see in this is basically the lifestyle of the rich and famous. They're not talented. What talent do they have? They have no talent. They've built up this, this brand. They've started their business on whatever, whether it's makeup or whether it's perfumes or whatever. They've gotten really popular, but it's all about this glam lifestyle, and that's all it is. The main reason why people are attracted to them is because you see them in their everyday. And I saw this, and I thought, you know what? How do I want to research the Kardashian? I thought, I want to explore the mind of somebody who watches this, because I'm sorry, I don't understand that kind of a mind, because I got things to do. I don't have time to watch something stupid like that. So again, I don't want to offend you if you like it. Okay, I'm sorry, that's great. Yay. But I was like, how can I get into the mind of their understanding? And I started reading some posts from people who like to watch it. And these are some of the comments that I read. It says, when I watch the Kardashians, for a moment, I can be glam myself. So what I started seeing was, okay, it's like this escape. I'm poor. I don't have money, but I can watch this show and I can kind of live my life out through that. And that may be, I guess, the thing that drives them. There were other comments that says they're so beautiful. And, you know, they wear all these beautiful dresses. They wear and they look in ways that I always wish I could look. So what you see is idol worship, idolatry. They want to look like them. They want to be like them. So that's idolatry. I wish I could look like that. And so I would caution people, if that's why you're motivated to watch those things, you need to check your heart, because according to God, we're beautifully and wonderfully made. According to what God says is that he provides for us. He is our provider. And so to desire more than what God has given us, especially to lust after that way, that's not going to lead to a content heart. That can't. So that's another example. All right, so the next thing that the world will say, yes?
I think today I got a little bothered we had a meeting at work, and one of the doctorate professors was upset about a flag being taken down. It was the LBG flag. So anyway, it bothered me because she was upset about it, because it was taken down, and the whole world's going, kind of going against it now or whatnot. And she felt like, I think it was like, I think it was more like she idled it, right? She kind of like idled that flag, and that was kind of the same thing that I felt like, okay, well, like you're saying, like, first of all, to know God and to be fearful of God. I don't know, they're saying it's a choice, right? It's a choice, something they want to love, or they think God made them that way, whatnot. But if they're idolizing the flag, and so upset about it, because that's, like, it was taken down. I'm over here like
Yeah.
I don't know, it really upset me.
Yeah. Well, we'll be talking about that genre here later on, so I'll save a little bit on that. But thank you for sharing that, because yeah, people find their identity in other things other than what should be. Obviously, not a believer, right? The second lie that the world will say about money is that money is all you need to be happy. That's all you need, man. Just get money and it will solve all your problems, man. You're going to be great if you just have money. And the shows that promote this are endless. Billions. There's a show called Billions. There's a show called The Secret Millionaire. There's a show called Empire. Undercover Billionaire. Secret Millionaire. Filthy Rich. Rich Kids of Beverly Hills, and the list goes on and on. All it is about just the bliss of money, right? And so let me just kind of give you some examples. There's a movie that came out in 2006 called The Pursuit of Happiness. I saw the movie. Now, it's an inspirational movie, but you have to see it with the proper eyes. It's a biography that stars Will Smith and Jaden Smith, father and son. And it's about the life of a man named Chris Gardner. And Chris Gardner, this is again a true story. He was a man who went from being homeless to being a multimillionaire. So he was homeless, and then he's like this great success story. And in the story, in the movie, is Gardner, he's very brilliant. He's a brilliant guy, but he's very unlucky. He's invested his life savings in this bone density scanner, but he's not able to sell it the way he hoped he would. And he trusted and believed in it so much that he emptied his life savings in it, but it's not taking off, so they've gone into poverty. And so his wife, who finally has had enough of it, she leaves him. She says, I can't live like this anymore, so she leaves him. And so Gardner spends the next year homeless and struggling to survive. He doesn't have a place to live. He's living out in the streets and everything. Well, by luck, he meets a stockbroker who is impressed by him. They share a cab ride, and it's right whenever the Rubik's Cubes are coming out. And he's like, look at this thing. This is crazy. You can't even do this. It's impossible. And he hands it over to Gardner. Gardner looks at it and quickly solves it. And it impresses the stockbroker guy so much that he says, hey, I want to offer you a position to compete for a paid position, but it's an intern job that's not paid for 6 months. In other words, he's going to be competing for the job, but for 6 months, he doesn't get paid, which he's already struggling. But he realizes that that's his only chance to get the job that he wants. Well, to make it worse, his estranged wife comes back and tells him that she's moving away to New York to be with her sister, and she leaves him the 5-year-old son. She goes, and basically abandons the family. She goes, I can't take care of him anymore, so she leaves the son with him. And so now he spends the next 6 months trying to take care of his son and him, living homeless with nothing. And he ends up winning the full-time position, and he goes on to become a wealthy millionaire. And here's my point. On one side, it's inspirational, isn't it? The guy was broken, and he fought through, and he ends up winning the job and making it, becoming a multimillionaire. But you need to ask yourself, what is the message? If the message is this inspirational story about a man's hard work and his struggle to survive and to provide for his son, then that's good, right? Thank you. But if the message is that his pursuit of happiness was money, then it sends the wrong message. Because the name of the movie is Pursuit of Happiness. Well, what is that pursuit? So you have to be careful, because in the movie, it doesn't talk about his faith. It doesn't talk about him praying to the Lord. It's about him pursuing that thing that he wants, which is what? That paid position to become a wealthy stockbroker. And in the end, he ends up getting the job, and he built up his own company, made millions, and that's the last thing, that's the last thought. And I'm thinking, well, what about the fact that he has a son? What about the fact that he's a father? That's not emphasized. So to me, it sent the wrong message because of that. And he lost his marriage, yeah. So if the message, again, of the pursuit of happiness is money, it's not the right message. Now, let me ask you another question before I do. Steve, you got a comment?
Crazy enough, in real life, Will Smith went on an interview, and he admitted that even at the highest place, he still feels empty.
Yeah, I saw that interview.
Conveniently enough, it was Will Smith that said it.
Yeah, that in the highest place he had felt the most empty. And he said, I think if I remember him saying, the two places where he felt the most alone were in the lowest and the highest place. So that ought to send a message, right? All right, now I'm going to make some of the ladies mad here. All right? Why do you think I have Cinderella on this slide? Yeah. That's a live action one. You've seen it, right? Haven't you? No, I haven't seen it. I don't know. I was just joking. Is it good? Was it good? You recommend it? I guess. Yeah, I'm just joking with you. That one's not bad, right? Why do I have Cinderella on this slide? Don't ignore my question.
There's the daughter, the stepwife, and
You're on it? You're there? You're going?
I can't get it out. Stepsisters, thank you. Stepsisters were all greedy. They were very greedy, and they married her dad for the money, and he left.
Okay.
And then he didn't have any more money.
Okay. What's the story?
Well, in the actual Grimm fairy tale, to get the glass slipper to fit on either the stepsisters, they had either cut off the heel or cut off the toe, just to try to marry the prince to gain that position of princess. Yeah.
Yeah, so they had to deform themselves, cut off a toe in the real story, or deform their feet in order to try to fit in the glass slipper. Okay.
She had to make wishes to be this fabulous person, right? And that was her
Okay.
And because of all that, her happiness was to be with this wealthy prince.
Ah, here's the story. In the story, here's a poor, mistreated girl. She's abused by her stepsister. She's abused by her stepmom. And did I mention she's poor? She doesn't have any money. And she's poor. And so this fairy godmother grants her this wish. And so she wants to go to the ball, right? And then so she gets all this stuff and she shows up and she looks so beautiful. And she ends up catching the eye of this prince who, by the way, did you know that he's wealthy? Yeah, he's got a lot of money.
It was for love.
Yes, okay, right, it's for love. And so, of course, he's chasing after her. He wants to find out who the slipper is. And at the end of the movie, or at the end of the story, she marries the rich young prince. All right? It's every young girl's dream. It's every young girl's dream. The rich, handsome husband. The rich, handsome husband. The perfect. So I want to marry that rich young prince who's going to come and save me, and he's going to have a lot of money. Beauty and the Beast. What's the story of Beauty and the Beast? Yeah, so she meets this ugly beast, right? But she's so kind to him, and they fall in love, and at the end he changes. And by the way, did I mention that the beast, he's rich? He's a prince. He has a big castle. Pretty woman. She's a prostitute. Destitute. She's a prostitute. But then she meets Richard Gere, who hires her for a weekend, right? And they fall in love, and gives her all this stuff, and he comes to find her. And did I mention that he's rich? The Bachelor, when all the girls are competing for the Bachelor, is he a youth minister and makes $52,000 a year? Is he a painter? Is he a plumber? No, he's wealthy. Oh, but he's good looking. Yeah, but he's got money. And all the girls are competing for him. Made in Manhattan with Jennifer Lopez. Anybody seen that movie? What's that movie about? Jennifer Lopez, who is not just a maid, a poor maid. She ain't got no money. She's poor. But she encounters this man who is, I guess, handsome. But you know what's really important? He's rich. And he comes looking for her. He's this prominent man. And I think he's a politician or something. And he comes and he sweeps her off the feet. Here's the point I'm trying to make. What Hollywood teaches for a lot of these young girls, and what media teaches for a lot of these young girls, is your dream husband, he better have some moolah. He better have some money. He's going to be handsome, but he's going to be rich. That's what you need to look for. This is your ideal for what you need to look for. And is it not true, if you look through social media, a lot of these girls will say, well, if I'm going to marry him, I have standards. And one of those standards, it's not that he's a godly man. It's not that he fears God. It's not that he prays. It's not that he reads his Bible. No, he needs to make at least 6 figures. How many times on social media do you see women saying, I have my expectations for a man? And it's funny to me because the girl, she's got 4 kids by 4 different baby daddies. And she's not some gorgeous princess or anything, but I got my standards. He better be 6'2". He better be making $600,000 or more a year. He better be acting this way. He better be doing these things, and that's the standard. And so there's this hypocrisy that's happening in the culture because that's being promoted for these girls. So it's a message that I think we need to be careful for. It's that money is the secret to a good marriage. Money is all a marriage needs, and that's not the truth. What a marriage needs is love. Love more than anything. 2 people that would love each other for real, that they would come together and become one flesh, that God would bless them. That's what a true marriage needs. And so for kids, they need to learn that's not what they need to pursue. So money is not all that you need to be happy. And even in our innocent princess stories, that's what's evident. All right? All right, let's go to the next one. Money. The third lie, is that money is going to solve all your problems. Another thing the world promotes is that money is the solution to all your problems. Have you ever seen the statistics on people who win the lottery? Did you know that within a few years, 30% declare bankruptcy? They had never declared bankruptcy until then. The large majority find themselves in serious financial stress. And statistics show that the large majority of people who win the lottery will say that they wish that they had not won the lottery. So money is not going to solve all your problems. In many ways, it creates problems. And let me tell you something about money. Money only magnifies a person's character. If you're a drunk, now you're going to be a drunk with a lot more booze to buy. Now you might elevate, well, I used to drink this, but now I drink this stuff, but you're still a drunk. I used to be a gambler, but I gambled $5, $10, $20, $50. But now I gamble $5,000, $10,000, $20,000. You're still a gambler. If you're a sexual deviant, if you get money, you're just going to become worse. The point I'm trying to make is money magnifies a person's character. That's really what money does. Think of the movie Limitless. Limitless is a movie about, it stars Bradley Cooper and Robert De Niro, and it's about a man whose life is a mess. His life is an utter mess. He's a failed writer, and he's stuck in life, and he doesn't know how to move forward in life. And his girlfriend ends up leaving him because he's just not doing much with his life. But then in the movie, he discovers a drug that unlocks the brain's potential. So he takes this drug, and all of a sudden his brain opens up, and he's able to really end up doing what he couldn't do before. So he takes this drug, and he ends up publishing his book, and then he ends up becoming a stockbroker, and he ends up making millions off of the stock exchange. And with his wealth, he transforms. He, changes his life. He cuts his hair. He gets in shape. Buys all the nice suits. He becomes wealthy. And at the end of the movie, he wins back his girlfriend, and he finds himself running for senator. And eventually, in the movie, it gives you the hint that he's going to run for president. Well, what's the message? The message is, with limitless brain power, seek money. Yeah, like for example, if somebody says, hey, pastor, here's a pill that will unlock, you can really give it to me. Okay, let's just say I did. You know what I'd do? I'd go and I'd sit down and say, what are you going to do now? How long do I got? You got 6 hours. Okay. I go and open up my Greek and my Hebrew, and I go, I really want to learn this. I want to memorize all of it. I want to get really good at handling God's word. No, not him. He has the unlocked brain potential, and the story is go and make money with it. So that the ultimate goal of the unlimited mind is wealth. You see what I'm saying? He takes this drug and his brain opens up, and what does he do with his time? He doesn't go and publish a memoir. He doesn't, of course, he's got this book that was needed published, but he devotes his time to making money. That's the ultimate good. That's what the story promotes. How many of you have seen Hell or High Water? It's a good movie. It's a neo-Western drama. It was nominated for a lot of awards. It's a great movie. It stars Chris Pine and Ben Foster. And in the movie, these two brothers, which are the two bottom ones there on the bottom right, they carry out a series of bank robberies to save their family's farm. So in the movie, they're going around and they're just robbing banks. And throughout the movie, all their problems are tied with money. Their mother died because she was sick because they couldn't afford the health care. So if they had money, the mother wouldn't have died. The ranch that they own is foreclosing. The bank is foreclosing on them because they owe the bank, because the mother took out a reverse mortgage and couldn't pay it off when she died. And one of the brothers is divorced, and he can't see his kids and he can't see his family because he owes child support. So everything is tied. All their problems are tied to money, so they decide they're going to rob the bank so that they can solve all their problems. Well, after they rob the first bank, they're sitting there, and the brother says, hey, man, why don't you go see your kids? Like, how long has it been? He goes, it's been a while since I've seen my kids. I miss them. I want to go see them. But I owe a bunch on child support. And they just robbed the bank. And he says, you got enough in your front pocket to fix that problem now. See that? So eventually, two Texas Rangers, and Jeff Bridges is one of them, they catch up to them, and a shootout occurs. So they're chasing after them, and they anticipate where they're going to rob the bank, and there's a big shootout. And during that shootout, one of the Rangers is killed. One of the brothers shoots the Rangers, but then one of the brothers is killed. So one of the brothers dies and one of the Rangers. And the last remaining one is Jeff Bridges and the brother on the bottom right. And Jeff Bridges catches up to him and he finds him, but now he doesn't have any evidence. So he can't arrest him. But he's determined to go find him because he wants to know why. Why were they doing this? Why were they robbing all these banks? What was the point? Because it bugged him like he could never solve the case. And that's whenever he tells them what happened. See, the banks that they were robbing, they were all the same bank. It was the Texas Midlands Bank. And the reason they were robbing that bank, because that was the bank that had foreclosed on their family farm because of the reverse mortgage. And here's the problem. When the mother died, the bank found out that they had discovered oil on the property, and therefore they didn't work with them, and they immediately foreclosed because they wanted that property. They were going to get it for $25,000, and they were going to make millions because of the oil they discovered. So basically, the bank had two-timed them. And so they were getting revenge on the bank. They said, fine, then we're going to rob the same bank that robbed us, and we're going to pay them back with their own money. That's what you find out. And throughout the movie, what's really interesting is they're driving, when they're going from one scene to the other, what you'll see is foreclosure. They'll show you properties, and there's conversations. Even the Texas Rangers are having conversations. Jeff Bridges is talking to the other ranger, and the other ranger's a Native American. And he's like, they're talking, he says, and that Native American says, this used to all be our land until the white man robbed it from us. And then he says, and now the white man is being robbed of his land, but it's not the Native American now, it's them. And he points to the bank. So throughout the movie, the bank is made to be like the great villain. And at the end, whenever he's talking to him and he's realizing that they robbed all that money so that they could buy back, and he does buy back the ranch so he can keep it in his family, what it leaves you is this idea. They stole money to save the farm, and they stole money to get revenge on the bank, and it leaves you feeling like they were justified in what they did, that the bank was the bad guy. And even whenever he shows up with the money, the bank president, you can tell he's like disappointed because he really wanted that land. And so it's like the money had solved their problem, but not only that, it was almost like it was the right thing to do. And the point I'm trying to make with that movie is a great movie. I enjoyed it. But I have the wisdom to see that and say, no, they still rob banks and they still kill people in the process. There were people that were shot and killed. So it's a tragic turn because this family had gone through that. But the end never justifies the means. And you have to be careful because at the end there were still bank robbers and they still killed innocent people. So those are examples of movies where sometimes the message is hidden, but not always the message that you want people to, or that is, I guess, in alignment with God's word.
What's crazy, brother, is that movie explained like 3 of the series. For this series here, it's the money issue, how money will fix all your problems. Then you have the issue from previous series where the bad guys are the good guys in this case, and then you have the previous series where we were talking about revenge or karma, quote unquote. Like it's all in this movie, and this is probably the reason why they've won so many awards.
Yeah. So I mean, it's almost seemed like a modern Robin Hood kind of movie. But all of this centers around money.
I don't know if it's on the list, but that makes me think of was No Country for Old Men, because in the beginning the guy finds that case
Of all that money.
in a field of dead cartel members or drug dealers, and then it triggers a tragic set of events because instead of him calling somebody, say, hey, reporting it, something it
Yeah.
makes it, I think is
So his desire to keep that money, which was bloodstained, what he really picked up was a curse that follows him and ends up not only taking his life, but the life of his wife. So I think that's the point that I'm trying to show. In these movies, these are great. I loved Hell or High Water. Great movie. There's some of these movies that they're well made. I don't want you to say, well, watching these movies is bad, but The point I'm trying to make is that they don't a lot of times they don't promote the right biblical message. And you just have to have wisdom to see that and say, no, at the end of the day, they were thieves. At the end of the day, regardless of what had happened, here's what I would say. Well, what would you want them to do, lose a farm? Well, it would have been better than killing innocent people, yeah. Maybe it was God's will for them to lose that farm. The point is that it never justifies stealing and shooting people and killing people. And so there's all these movies that can present different views, and I get it. What they're wanting you to do is to be a little bit more sympathetic to people's circumstances, and that's important. We always want to understand people come from different backgrounds, so that I understand. But it never justifies doing the wrong thing. And when it comes to money, there's a lot of shows out there that promote money as the means, the focus. Money is not the point of life. Money's not going to solve all your problems. Money is not the greatest thing. Money is necessary. Don't get me wrong. But if you take every dollar you make and you ask God to bless it for you, and then you do it according to God's will, He'll bless you. But if you get it the wrong way, He'll never bless that.
Money is a great tool to have.
It's a great tool, but it's only a means. It's only paper, a means to do other things. So I hope that this study helped you with this. And again, I appreciate everybody's comments. Y'all had some great comments and insight. You guys make this class great. So thanks again. Let's go to the Lord. Lord Father, I thank you for this study and all that was shared. And Lord, I pray that we remember, Lord Father, you are the God of all provision. You are the God who gives us all things. And Lord, as the world may teach that money is the object of life, it may teach that it solves all our problems. We know that the reality is you are the source of everything. The reality is that it doesn't solve our problems. We need to understand, Lord Father, that our contentment must be found in you. That whatever money we have, Lord, is a gift from you. And I pray that we can be good stewards of that money. Lord, I thank you for this study and all that was shared, and I pray you bless us in this week. In Jesus' mighty name, amen. God bless.